Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Community Chats. My name is Erin Oeth, and I am the Assistant Director of Community Partnerships here at the University of Mississippi. Anthony Siracusa and Jody Holland are away today, so I have the privilege of being joined by a special guest host, Will Corley, one of our talented undergrad team leaders. So welcome, Will, to the show.
Thanks, Erin. So glad to be here.
And we are excited to be here for these regular conversations. As you know, this is our chance to highlight people who are making a positive difference in the region, to really showcase some of the good work our campus and community partners are doing. Today, we are joined by Laura Martin, Assistant Director for the McLean Institute for Public Service here at the University of Mississippi. So Laura, we are so excited to have you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you guys so much. I'm really excited to be here.
Fantastic. Well, we are excited to get to know more about you and your work. So let's jump right into it. Can you just start off telling us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, how you ended up here in Oxford and at the university?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am originally from a small suburb outside of New York City called Larchmont, New York. I went to public schools and went to college up in the Northeast. And so when I came to Mississippi, I was so unfamiliar with some of the cultural touchstones here that I actually thought the SEC was the Security and Exchange Commission and not the Southeastern Conference. So that was kind of my first hint that, you know, I would have a lot to learn and would really enjoy learning about this place. But I wasn't, I hadn't been in New York my whole life. I went to school in Rhode Island. My first job out of college was actually facilitating service learning trips in rural Nicaragua and supporting community development and public health projects. So that was kind of my first work experience. From there, I served as an AmeriCorps member in Austin, Texas, working at the intersection of homelessness and immigration and refugee status among homeless people. And then that really sent me into the policy realm. So I went to policy school, and then I started working around the Texas legislature as a civil liberties lobbyist, a health center lobbyist, and then also a legislative staffer. So I found my way to Mississippi in 2012. We moved here, and I had never considered a career in higher education. And so I like to share that with people who may have never envisioned themselves in higher ed, because I didn't know that there is a whole segment of higher education devoted to improving quality of life, right? This community engagement space where we're all working. And so really for me, the journey has been, this thread of developing partnerships and building broad-based coalitions in service of a greater goal. And I was really delighted to find that there were many, many opportunities to do so here at the University of Mississippi. And I've been at the McLean Institute. I'm now the associate director, started as a program coordinator in 2013. And I have been here. This has been the job that I've been really fortunate to hold since moving to Mississippi.
That's awesome. That story about the SEC is so funny, because it was like the exact opposite for me, because I'd already always done it as football, and then I learned that was so funny. So can you tell us a little bit more about how you came into your position at the McLean Institute? We love to hear about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, like for anyone that may be graduating and looking for job opportunities, one of the things I learned in kind of the first part of my career doing nonprofit and public policy work in Texas is that you make as many connections as you can. And so it was, really a natural thing as a newcomer to the place to just, reach out to people, invite them for a meeting, and then, to borrow from like survey research design, just snowball sampling, right? Like, this is me, this is what I'm passionate about. Who else should I talk to? Who else should I get to know? And so I did this on campus in Memphis and Jackson. And because it took a while to find a fit and the right opportunity. And it was funny because like all signs on campus just kept pointing to the McLean Institute. And this was, the fall of 2012 when Dr. Nylander, who is the director of the Institute, had been hired, and he was building the Institute. And his charge was really to reinvigorate the Institute after Dr. Grisham, the founding director, had retired in 2005. So the McLean Institute has this wonderful and long legacy, really rooted in the work that George McLean did in Tupelo, where you build a broad-based coalition in service of a greater goal. Sounds familiar, right? Like, this has literally been my career. And there's a template for it in Tupelo. And what's unique, though, I think about the Tupelo model is that universities were key to that vision. And so that's what Dr. Nylander was starting to build in 2012. And I responded to the job ad, went through the interview process and then began work as a program coordinator in January of 2013. So I really, I feel this very strong sense of attachment and commitment because I feel like we have really built, this new iteration of the McLean Institute. And we do a lot of work in like the entrepreneurship space, and I very much resonate with like these small business startups because I think that we've had that experience. And it's been also just a really transformative experience, for me growing into this like higher education practitioner and scholar. And so I recently submitted a full draft of my dissertation. And throughout that whole process, I've been having to like distance myself from my staff role and just remember like, for the purposes of this project, you are a researcher seeking to understand. But it's been cool, to really look back almost retrospectively on the whole process and take stock of some of the impacts that we've had.
Yeah. Well, Laura, maybe all of our listeners aren't familiar with the McLean Institute. So can you just zoom out a little bit and tell us a little bit about McLean and the mission and the work that you do?
Yeah, so the McLean Institute for Public Service and Community Engagement, as I said before, is housed here on campus. We have a long history tracing back to the work of Vaughn Grisham, who led the Institute from 1984 until 2005. When we kind of reinitiated efforts in 2012, we were charged with, implementing some strategic initiatives on campus to advance transformation through service and fight poverty through education. And so the way that has evolved in our kind of catchphrase or our elevator speech right now is that the McLean Institute partners with Mississippi communities to fight poverty through education, innovation, and entrepreneurship.
I love that mission statement, that elevator pitch.
Yeah, that's great. Can you share a little bit with us about your team and your partners and everyone involved in doing all the great work that's going on at the McLean Institute?
Yeah, for sure. So we have, I would say, like 3 signature initiatives that I wanted to highlight for you guys today. And for those of you that are familiar with the literature in community engagement, sometimes we talk about these like transactional to transformational spectrums of program activities and actions, right? So what researchers have found is that, transactional engagements, sort of a really specific project on a bracketed time frame, are not inherently negative. In fact, they generally lead to deeper and more sustained involvement as you're able to align mission, resources, identity, et cetera. And so one of the things that's been neat as I was sharing, like as our programs have evolved and our initiatives have really taken root, like we're starting to kind of see them aligning along this continuum. And so I would say sort of the one program where I'll start is M-Partner. And M-Partner is a time-bound program initiative where we work really intensively in 2 to 3 communities at a time for a period of 18 to 24 months. And so M-Partner is all about aligning credit-bearing courses, student internships, faculty research, national service placements, days of service, et cetera, to improve quality of life in our partner communities. So the pilot ran from 2018 to 2020, and we were working in Charleston and Tallahatchie County, Lexington and Holmes County, and New Albany and Union County. Now we are working in both Ecru and Pontotoc, which are located in Pontotoc County. So M-Partner, I would say, has been a really powerful point of entry for students that are looking to do an internship, a day of service, or students may be a part of M-Partner through one of their courses and then come to us saying, do you have any opportunities for us to be involved over the longer term? And we do. So the next project, we refer to it as SEED. It stands for Catalyzing Entrepreneurship and Economic Development, so CEED. The SEED initiative is led by my colleague, Dr. J.R. Love, and it is funded very generously by the Heron Foundation. And so SEED is structured to provide funding for students in the form of undergraduate scholarships or graduate assistantships. Some SEED students stay with us for a year, but many have stayed with us for 2, 3, 4 years. And so there's, as you can see, quite a bit more continuity there. and seed students develop actionable partnerships with Mississippi communities with the goal of generating entrepreneurial activity, economic development. They're really, really focused in rural areas. And then finally, the North Mississippi Vista Project, I would say, is probably more of our like longer term sustainable transformational initiatives. It's a federally funded national service program, and Vista, of course, upholds the principles of poverty alleviation, capacity building, sustainable solutions, and community empowerment. And so the Vista grant is actually in its 10th year at the University of Mississippi. We have been leading it at the McLean Institute since 2016. 2017, like I said, it's all, I think, let's say 2016. And my colleague Emily Eccles directs that project. And so that's us. Dr. Nylander is the director. I'm the associate director working closely on M-Partner and Vista. Dr. J.R. Love leads SEED. Emily Eccles leads Vista. And so again, like as such a small staff, it is truly not lost on us that we do so little without the involvement of our students, community partners, Vista members. And I should also recognize Orlando Washington, who was our administrative secretary for many, many years and recently accepted a position with Fast Track. So we're very excited for her, but we really, really miss her.
For sure.
That's our crew, and that's our projects.
I know we've been fortunate to benefit from some of those SEED scholars and some of those Vistas, all the interaction and overlap with community engagement. So yes, thank you for your strong team. So you already took us through some of the specific programs, but are there anything highlights that you want to share over the past year? I know this has been kind of a different kind of year. What do you most want to share? What's the good work that's going on right now?
I mean, I will say it's so much, right? I think kind of the big picture is that there's so much, grief and loss and fear and just there's so much brokenness right now, collectively as a society, individually, and people's, sort of circles of care and concern. And I think that when you move through collective trauma like this, right, be it the pandemic, be it our national reckoning on racial justice, you just have to, examine these questions of like, what are my values and what is important and what is the role that I want, how do I want to deploy my talents, right, to make this world a better and a more just and a more equitable place. And so I would say just, very big picture, I think, it has felt very anchoring to just have continuity of our programs. The Vista it's a federal program. It's all about presence and community. And about a year ago, we were receiving, these weekly bulletins that, Vista members may now serve remotely. They may serve safely, face to face if they so choose. And so, we have essentially just gone through the process of pivoting operations with, a host of summer interns, 20 some odd Vista partner organizations, wrapping up the pilot phase of M-Partner, launching a new pilot phase, all virtually or with the masks. And so I've been really heartened just at the flexibility and the adaptability and the innovation. When I look at our numbers, I'll give the Vista project as an example. We raised I think it was almost $500,000 collectively across our sites. Like you were talking before, Erin, about collective impact. And that's just through, grants and in-kind. That's not even sort of the human capital that the Vista members are contributing. And I think that some of that is a consequence of the largesse that happens in times of crisis, but also just the number of beneficiaries served. It's through the roof, right? I mean, our impact in terms of people that we've served through Vista is higher than it's been in any of our previous years, which though means that people are struggling. I think on the bright side, it means that they're reaching resources and they are being connected. But I think it's just holding that tension, right? Of, the incredible need, having the opportunity to make a contribution to meet those needs, and feeling like we're doing that successfully. But, just recognizing that this is a very long-term endeavor. But I'm grateful that we have kind of this suite of programs where we can really steer community partners looking to connect to the university.
For sure.
Oh yeah, thank you, Lauren. So you mentioned that communities everywhere are facing challenges, facing struggles right now, and the McLean Institute is really working hard to battle some of those. Can you tell us more about maybe some personal challenges or challenges that the McLean Institute has faced, either over the past year or even before that? Can you tell us a little bit about those challenges?
Like the Institute's challenges or challenges in the communities where we're serving?
Both. Any kind of barriers that you may face as an institute, or challenges that the broader community is facing.
So, I mean, we work in poverty alleviation, and I think one of the things that I see here in Lafayette County is just the cost of living and the cost of housing in particular being really, really prohibitive for so many folks. Like I have driven a member of the Vista Project to to eviction court because the cost of living and the terms of the lease were truly untenable, and I'm really, really glad that we were able to advocate and intervene on this Vista member's behalf. But it was staggering to me that somebody who has chosen to do a year of national service fighting poverty while living in poverty, because that's how the program is designed, was having to make these impossible choices. And so, I think it's interesting because I think that like, oh, maybe this is unique to Oxford, but then we were just having conversations with our partners in Pontotoc, discussing that the cost of living in Pontotoc is really high as well. And so I think I can fall into this trap of thinking that like there are some unique challenges because Oxford is such a vibrant economy and kind of has this real stratification of income and wealth. But, you know, it is actually happening all across the communities that we serve. And so, there are interesting conversations going on right now at the national level around national service. And I'm just using Vista as an example because we are currently recruiting for Vista. So people are welcome to apply for summer and year-long opportunities, and I can talk more about that later. But Vista members, like I said, they receive a living allowance that is set to 100% of the federal poverty level in the county where they're serving. And with the new federal legislation that just passed, there's conversation about raising that living allowance so that it is not only people with financial means who can afford to do a year of service, right? And we have tried to build in all of these different safeguards into our program. For example, many of our partner sites in Lafayette County will offer a housing stipend to offset the cost of housing here in the community. Our Vista Serving on Campus receive a meal plan, so that like Lucky Day ice cream machine is like a major draw, right? But like parking, Turner Center memberships. I mean, we try to offer all of the incentives that we can within the parameters of the program. But it's interesting to me, right, that nationally Vista is having these conversations about how can we really recognize that there are some equity concerns around the way that this program is structured, this program that seeks to, break down systemic barriers to economic mobility. So yeah, I think, the cost of living is like a really pat answer that I think kind of extends into a lot of different, kind of dimensions of life in Lafayette County and also beyond.
Yeah. Well, thank you for highlighting that issue. I know it is an ongoing issue and has been one for a long time with federal service programs and with Vista. And hopefully we can continue to create more accessible options so that more people can serve. So Laura, what keeps you going? As someone that's been doing this work for a long time, what are some of the rewards? What motivates you to keep going at this work even when it's hard?
Oh my gosh, I always ask people that question and I've never had to answer it. Oh,
It's your turn now.
So like the little wins along the way, right? I think I was socialized in my work as a legislative advocate working on immigration and refugee rights in the state of Texas, where like we were not set up to be successful, given the way that kind of that legislative process is structured. And so my like very early training in my career really centered on like celebrate the small wins, because the small wins are big wins. And when you are kind of embedded in this greater struggle for justice and equity and liberation, It doesn't happen overnight. And so you have got to really fortify yourself for the long haul. And I've learned that from many, many talented community organizers that I've worked with. So I would say, it's little wins that are big wins, and then big wins that are big wins, right? Like one of the Vista members I wanted to highlight is Zachary Antonelli, who is serving his second term with LOU Reads. And through the tax credit that is available to nonprofit organizations serving low-income families in Mississippi, Zachary raised nearly $200,000 to support early learning in Lafayette County. And so, when I see this spreadsheet of what all of our Vista members are doing, and again, that is one program at the McLean Institute, right? It's phenomenal, right? And I think like I said, I didn't spend my career in higher ed. I'm here now, and there has been something so life-giving about the energy of students that are really asking critical questions and asking questions that I can't answer, right? And sort of proposing these alternate ways of being and doing and existing. And then having those students encounter community partners that have deeply nuanced understandings of the places where they live and the changes that they're trying to create. It's very energizing, and it really just feels like a privilege to be in the position to just broker some of those connections. I don't know. I don't know that I can answer the question any better, right? It's just, you just have to keep going. You have to. And I talked a little bit earlier just about, the moment that we're living in as a society. But I think the only way to get through this collective trauma and brokenness is to find where that light coexists with the darkness, and just keep moving towards the light, because it's there, even when it's just a sliver.
For sure. Good words.
Yes, absolutely. And we're so glad that you are so excited to keep doing this work. And we're so lucky to have you in our community. So for people listening and watching this, and they want to get involved in the programs at the McLean Institute, how can they do that? Where should they go? What should they do?
Okay. Please visit our website, which is McLean, McLean.olemiss.edu. People are also welcome to just email McLean, McLean@olemiss.edu, and that will go to the whole staff. I would say, most immediately, and thanks for setting me up, Will, we are recruiting for the North Mississippi Vista Project. And so we will have full-time summer associate positions as well as year-long terms of service. And we are accepting applications now. And so we just ask that folks email their resume and their cover letter to Vista, VISTA, @olemiss.edu, or you can send it to the McLean address, because again, we all get the messages, and I can also send you guys our recruitment flyer if that would be helpful.
Sure, we'll be glad to include those in the show notes and in the comments for the episode as it comes out.
Awesome.
So Laura, it is time for our 1 minute moment. If you have 1 minute to share anything you want with everyone listening in the LOU and university community, what do you most want to share? What do you most want to leave them with today?
Well, I think first, appreciation for all of the ways that we have found partnership with so many different individuals and institutions and organizations in the LOU community. One of the things when I started studying community engagement is that there are these really strong differentiations between the community organizations and the community residents and the students. And what I think is really unique about our LOU community, which literally encompasses everybody together in the same acronym, is that I find many, many students that don't identify only as, University of Mississippi students. They identify as residents of Oxford, as residents of Lafayette County. And I think that we have such a unique opportunity to really blur those boundaries of identification and reimagine what partnership looks like, because we have so many students that care so deeply and are so deeply invested in this place. And so I think that invites all of us doing this work to have a really innovative approach to placemaking and collaboration through this, broader umbrella of partnership.
Oh, well, thank you so much. This has been such a rich conversation. We so value our partnership with the McLean Institute and so thankful for the work that y'all do here in our community and across the state and other communities as well. And thank you to all of you for tuning in. We are so excited to have you join us for these community chats. Our goal, as you know, is to elevate campus and community leaders, allow them to tell their story, and really celebrate what's going on in our community. And if you want to be interviewed on the show, we would love to have you join us. Please be in touch on our Facebook page, any of our social media platforms, or reach out to us through engaged@olemiss.edu. In the meantime, please like, comment, share this live feed with your friends, stay engaged, stay safe, and we'll see you next time on Community Chats. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.